Hello, everyone. We are here, the obnoxious chair guy and the water thief.
Yeah, I'm amazed. He claims that the mic does not pick up the constant farting noises that his chair makes.
That's not farting noises. That's like creaking. That's like old horror movie creaking noises from a house.
Anyway, despite the annoying sounds from the chair, I guess the mic doesn't pick it up. So good.
I go through and I go through like at least the first couple minutes whenever I'm editing these audio bits because I need to figure out like, do I need to make the volume lesser or more? And like even when I increase the volume like so that it's like more than audible, like no,
Oh.
I don't get the creaking
Okay.
somehow.
I guess I'll just have to believe you. All right, let's do some reviews.
All right, we begin with Chaos Control 85.
All right, here's a question. Does Heroes Rising happen before or after Christmas? The reason I ask is because Uraraka's birthday is immediately after Christmas, 12/27.
Also, Hinata's birthday.
Oh, I didn't know that. Best girl. All right. And I was wondering if you were going to have that as part of the filler and have Graviton smash solidify their bond further with it.
Is that like a different ship name for Deku Gravity?
I guess we have some
Graviton Smash?
I kind of like that.
I like the Deku Gravity because like it like I mean you don't have to it flows well. You don't have to do anything to their names.
Graviton Smash. It's cute.
Yep.
Also, probably have Deku as Kai and or Ashid Queen about what to get and how to make it special, etc. And wondering if it would happen on or around campus or during their field trip onto Nabu Island. I can't talk. Sorry. Bleh.
So to answer the first question, as far as I understand it, Heroes Rising happens like a few weeks before Christmas. Like, I believe that like they go to Nabu Island for a month. I'm pretty sure that they leave like late November, like they leave like mid-November and then get back mid-December.
Okay.
Yeah, like at least that's how I'm gonna work. That's how I'm gonna work into this timeline. So like. So they'll do their time on Nabu Island, and then when they get back, it'll be pretty close to Christmas time. And then who knows? I mean, Deku's kind of got tunnel vision when it comes to the whole hero course thing. So he like it might come up that Kurai and Mina have to like be elbowing him and be like, do something for the birthday, dude.
I think he'll need a little help.
Yeah.
He is as precious as Deku is. I have a feeling he's not the most attentive boyfriend when it comes to that. I'm sure not that he doesn't appreciate her, because I'm sure he will appreciate her to the moon and back.
Oh, apparently there was a scene recently, like in the manga, where he just straight up told her she was really pretty.
Aww.
Like to her, he was like, I don't know the exact context of the situation, but I saw like a panel, and he was like, you look really nice.
Aww.
I was this is great.
I love that. He's like under an anti-lying quirk or something. I love it.
I think it was just the two of them there.
That's so cute. I love it. Cool. We'll see.
Yeah, man.
Well, it's coming up.
That's
soon,
a good question.
So.
That's a good question though. Yeah. So yeah, like right now in the story, it's like early November.
Okay.
Like that's the timeline.
We're about
right now.
to hit Nabu.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna hit Nabu in a couple chapters.
All right. So awesome chapter as usual. Thank you, Chaos Control 85.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Up next, Fairy Sing Girl. I think Monoma got what he deserved after copying Kudai's quirk like that. I mean, Monoma's a jerk, and I'm surprised he hasn't been expelled from UA already because of his attitude. Bro, he's just a plot device. I mean, he's just plot armor.
It's a trope.
I don't know. It's
a trope.
He's just there. It makes no sense. I mean, it makes no sense why Minetta's there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not supposed to name him in this podcast.
Okay, so my in canon explanation, for lack of a better term, is that like they to get into UA you have to be good. Like you have to be smart, you have to be good, you have to have a good quirk, you have to know how to use that quirk. He's not bad at using it. His attitude sucks, of course, but I feel like with situation being what they are, like, heroes are like, it's a lot harder to get heroes on the street now. I feel like UA kind of doesn't want to throw away what they do have, but Of course, every academia has a breaking point, and he's getting very close to it if he hasn't already surpassed it. So we'll see what happens with him later on in the story.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I like how Kudai and Mina told Izuku and Ochako about their engagement. Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you for
that
your
was
sing,
fun.
girl. Next, Light Hero Kaiser.
All right.
Most interesting, great chapter, mate. Can't wait for more. Keep up the good work.
All right.
Kaito, wait. Why aren't you in the white frame? I thought you were going to attack Monoma with it. Why haven't you attacked him with your giant robot?
What giant robot?
Oh, I'm curious now. Light, I was going to show off your fight with Monoma. Kaito, oh, then that's fine. This is Blade Hero Light and Bow Hero Impact signing out.
Okay, and real quick here. So something I need to address is if people from what I can. So I'm not gonna finish this review here because I don't mind it when people like name drop their own stories in a review, and that's cool. Like I get it. Like you want to like advertise for lack of a better term. It's a real big pet peeve of mine. However, if you start like writing an actual story in the review, like I'm obviously like I'm not gonna kick you off for this, but it's like that's honestly the only word I can think of it is like obnoxious. It's like that's not what the review section is supposed to be for. It's like you want please provide your insights and criticisms on this story. Don't start writing a novella in the review section is all that I ask. Like I said, if you want to bring up like the name of your story, give a brief summary on what it's about, you want me to check it out, cool, I'll do that. I love getting to check out other people's work. Just don't start writing it in the review itself, please. But so sorry to throw that out there, but we do appreciate your support, Light Hero. Just please don't do that again. I don't like it. I don't know if that's a jerk move on my part, but that's just one of my pet peeves, and I got nothing else. I mean,
all right. No. I mean,
sorry.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think each to his own. But yeah, I mean, definitely check out his story. And you keep working, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Please keep persevering in your story endeavors.
Absolutely.
Just, yeah. I'm not telling you to not do that. Just please don't put it in the review section here.
All right. Joe Clone. Everything was perfect. I knew beforehand that Monoma copied the first type of Energon. That was great. Why did it fizzle out, though? Just not being able to handle it, or was it something else?
Okay, so there's a couple of contributions to what happened there. One, Monoma does not have the physical constitution to handle Energon for very long. More than that, though, was that he mentioned it was a blank, and he's said this twice. He said the same thing about One for All when he copied it, and he said the same thing about Ares' quirk when he copied it. That's because these are accumulation type quirks. They have to build up a certain amount of power before they're able to be released and executed. So he copied Energon, and his body immediately started building up the energy that the quirk produces, and he was able to use it. But the problem is that he didn't, because he started using it after like only 2 minutes of energy building, as opposed to like, Kurai's body's been producing energy like for most of his life at this point, and it just constantly recycles itself, for lack of a better term. So what you're saying
is, like, not only does he not have the surplus of energy, he hasn't been building it up.
Yeah.
And his body also isn't efficient at doing so.
Exactly. Is that what you're saying? Because we see
Kudai has this arsenal that's constantly building, kind of like how Bakugo constantly is sweating.
Yes.
If he were to copy Bakugo's, he would take a lot of sweat. No,
because for what happened, because he did copy Bakugo's quirk.
Yeah.
He was able to use the sweat that was already there.
Okay.
Yeah.
The sweat was already there automatically.
Yeah. But the energy that Kudai possesses wasn't just transferred into him.
Got it.
It's like
it's got to be something that's built up in his own body.
We saw him use One for All for like a split second.
Yeah.
Like the way the deck used it, he used it at like 5% or whatever, and he used it for like one quick movement, and then it fizzled out.
Yeah.
And he couldn't use it anymore.
Okay.
He was like, damn it was a blank. So it was the same thing in principle, but Energon builds up energy a lot faster than One for All does. Because One for All is constantly getting stronger all the time. Energon does the same thing in a sense, just much more quickly. That's why he was able to build up more power and release so much of it at once, but it still fizzled out.
Got it. Okay.
Sorry if that was a bit roundabout.
Okay. And of course, nobody is surprised that they won and got yelled at for the damage. To be fair, how could the teachers expect to make it more to their liking with how volatile Monoma is? At least he's gonna recover, right?
Yeah, he's not gonna die. He's not even gonna have any permanent damage. Nah, he's gonna be fine. I don't think Aizawa didn't yell at them. Nobody yelled at them.
They were still strict though,
Yeah.
as UA teachers are. They're always going to find. And I think the best teachers, at least in my life, the most effective teachers have been the ones who not only build me up, but they're honest with me and they give me a true critique, sorry. Because it's like, you know, you always love the sweet teacher that's always nice and always like says, "Oh, good job." But you don't really learn a lot that way.
No.
Even if you're working at your very best, you need, you know, I thrive on having feedback and knowing what I can work on. My supervisors all think I'm a freak because I immediately apply everything for whatever reason. But I think a lot of the best teachers, at least for my type of learning, you know, even if somebody is at their best, you're going to find some way that they can improve. And you're going to be hard on them because as soon as a learner gets too comfortable, you start backtracking. Yep. And so I think especially in this field, it's important for them to be hard on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if it wasn't this chapter, it was a couple chapters back when Kurai fought the whole class where Aizawa was talking well about Kurai's performance when it was just the teachers. And they were like, wait a minute, you were the one that was criticizing him the hardest, you know, back in the field. He was like, that's because he's the kind of kid that performs best when his flaws are highlighted.
Exactly. And you need to know your students. Because there's some kids, I give them one critique, they'll melt down. And they'll just totally melt and never want to do anything in my class again. But there's other students where, you know, I can be like, oh, that's cool. You may want to like add some shadows or something like that. You know, I'll give them like one little thing to work on, and that just fires them up, and they get excited because like, oh, I can make it better.
Yeah.
And then there's other kids who need sandwich compliments, right?
Yeah.
So you say, oh, you're doing such a good job. I like how you did this. You could maybe, you know, add some more variety, but it's still, you're doing great. Keep up the good work. And so, you know,
that
you have
first
to
part
know
of your
your
compliment,
learners.
by the way, sounded like the way you talk to the dogs.
Yeah. I mean, I probably talk to the students the way I talk to the dogs, let's be real, especially kindergartners. You have to, because when I use my sassy voice with the kinders, it scares them. My 5th graders love my sassy voice. I'm using my sassy burqueña voice the whole time with the 5th graders because they don't take me seriously if I don't pop into this right here. I have to be in this intonation. But with the little ones, my little chiquititos are, you know, we keep it cute, right? So so even that, your intonation with different students is
both
gonna
of those
change.
are just such abuela energy, but it's on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. That's just my teaching style. But I mean, yeah, every teacher is going to complement a different demographic, but you need to be a really effective teacher. You need to be able to know which students need different types of feedback. Like Aizawa, he's super hard on some students, and there's other students where he doesn't say much.
Yeah.
And it's not that he doesn't care. It's that he knows they're observing and they're listening. And if he were to, you know, straight up call them out, it would probably crush them. There's some personalities, definitely, in the class. They're all tough, but they'd be a lot more crushed to get his harsh feedback than others. And so he genuinely just doesn't say a lot to them. He just lets them observe and listen.
Like, you never see him speaking that hard to, like, Yairozu or Hagakure.
No.
Because he knows their constitutions are a little more delicate.
Yeah.
Or Koda.
Yep.
Like, you don't talk... No one talks harshly to that boy.
Well, Coda's adorable, first of all. But it's like, they're also the kind of students who it's like, you don't have to say a lot for them to be like, oh, I need to work harder, right? They're kind of self-motivated. They're good students. They know what they're about, right? And it's not that the others aren't, but, you know, they may need a little bit louder of a voice kind of pushing them in the right direction. It's like, this is where you need to be.
Yeah.
Right? And I have plenty of students where we get along great. It's not that I think they're bad kids, but I have to be more firm with them. And I have to look them in the eye and make sure they can repeat back to me what I just told them. Otherwise, I have no idea what's going on in that kid's head. So, I mean, every student's different. And I think that, you know, say what you want about Aizawa, Dadzawa. You know, we all know he's a cinnamon roll.
I don't think I'd call him a cinnamon roll.
He's a very jaded one. He's very jaded, but he's a good teacher and he's good at what he does.
Yep.
And so.
Yep. I think Kakashi would approve.
Yes, Kakashi's way more of a cinnamon roll than.
Oh yeah,
Aizawa.
Kakashi's a cinnamon roll.
Aizawa's not. That was the wrong term. I'm trying to. He loves his students and he loves them in his way.
Yep.
And it's very different from all the other teachers, for sure.
He's that walking trope of my students are all little shits, but if you hurt them, I'll murder you. Yeah.
That's like, that'll be me the last week of teaching in December because they were gonna drive me insane before winter break. All right, sorry, total rant there.
They know what we're about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Akabane is just a sweetie. If you got more plans for her, then I'm all for it. Gasp! What if she met with Mind Reader Shadow?
He wouldn't care. So Shadow's a little bit older than they are. Just for context, like he was with the provisional he was at the provisional licensing exam, but it's like it's his last year of Hero Academy. So pretty soon he'll be like going on to be a pro hero. So he's kind of in a different phase of life than they are, I would say. Okay. He'll be in the story again. But yeah, he's not like he wouldn't really fit in with their social circles is all I'll say about that for now.
Okay. Akurui helping with the mechanics for One for All is a genius idea that I wish I thought about sooner. Also gives an engaging reason for other skeptics to keep reading even after the eventual premature death of Kudai.
You might be onto something there.
My heart with the cuteness is just gonna kill me in the end. Do I make myself? Why do I make myself feel this way? Next chapter should be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe Clone.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thanks, and last but not least, Silikira. A very satisfying end to this competition. This was... I had everything I could want.
It had everything.
It had everything I could want. Excellent solo action from our heroes, great team ups, and a good dose of humor. Seriously, Kudai is not even using his quirk at the end to finish off Monoma was hilarious. It was a great fight between the two, but I like how appropriately short it was. I get the sense that Kudai was toying with his bully just a little bit, but he didn't drag it out. He had his fun and then made his point by showing just how easy it would have been this whole time for him to deal with Monoma himself, but chose not to because of his convictions and self-discipline. Our hero used an ultimate move to counter his enemy at the end, but I kind of doubt he really needed to. Again, he was making a point of showing how far out of Monoma's league he actually is.
Yeah, there's some truth to that, I would say.
At least, that's how I saw it. Maybe I'm reading into it too much.
No, I mean... There were like, Kudai definitely got more than one sense of revenge out of that. Like he didn't use the ultimate move just to toy with Monoma. He felt that he needed to use it, so he did. And then that's he needed to do that to finish the fight, so that's what he did.
Right. Also, side note, does Kudai have something against people's hands now? I noticed you kind of had him do the same thing to Monoma that he did with Cinder, though he didn't completely destroy his arm like he did hers.
Huh.
I can tell you didn't think about that one.
Not really, but like I know what he's talking. Like I know what he's talking. Yeah, he did the thing where he grabbed their arm, like he slowly crushes it. Like with Cinder, he took it he took a step further and like pancaked her arm. But yeah, he definitely broke some stuff in Monoma's hand too. I didn't think about that, honestly.
Yeah, so he's saying, is it some kind of unconscious jealousy thing, or is it a coincidence?
I mean,
I guess that one's new territory.
I guess it's maybe I'm unconsciously jealous for Kunai. I don't know. I don't know.
I think that's like a lot of your karate style, though, I've noticed has to do with kind of grabbing and deflecting with the arms.
There's a little bit of that, yeah.
Because like a lot of other martial arts I've seen. I mean, I guess I don't know a lot about martial arts, but I've seen a lot of like the throwing.
Yeah, but we don't like.
And you guys do more of the kind of.
We don't do like we honestly don't do like a whole lot of joint manipulations type of thing. It's like the only joint like if someone grabs my hand, I know how to get out of that real quick.
Yeah.
But like I'm not even manipulating somebody else's joints as much as I'm manipulating my own. Basically, like I get out and then I break their nose. That's
okay.
what. That's how.
So this is just an unconscious coincidence that you created.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, definitely wasn't on purpose. Okay. I honestly hadn't thought of that. Huh.
Also, shall we see a new chakra power manifest sometime soon? I believe this leaves just one for Kudai to unlock, provided none of them get sealed up again.
That is something to keep in mind, is that the chakras can be, if something happens to disrupt his state of mind, some of the chakras can absolutely be sealed again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will be seeing a new chakra power manifest pretty soon. All
right. I was a little surprised that Aizawa didn't make Team Lightning Drop clean up their mess as a punishment. But then I realized that they were dealing with Dad Zawa instead of Eraserhead for the moment, which made me smile all over again. Yep. His half-minute conversation with Vlad King was ace, by the way. Good way to show us the audience how they really feel about giving anything away to the students.
Yeah, I had fun with that. Like, and that I feel like that almost seems like one of those things that I almost missed on doing, but like, no, I was real deliberate with that. I was like, no, this conversation needs to happen. It needs to go right here.
Nice. I'm very interested to see how Akarui's input into Izuku's training might affect the development of One for All and the quirks that are loaded with it. We will see a different order of manifestation. Will we see a different order of manifestation, or will the process simply be sped up? You wouldn't bring him in without an idea of what to do with all that, and I can't wait to see what it is.
You're onto something there.
Care to elaborate?
No.
Speaking of our sassy boy, we're going to get to see him for 2 whole chapters? Has Christmas come early? I predict near limitless mockery from him concerning Kudai and Mina's latest development, and I can't wait to see how that goes.
Oh, man.
Kudai...
Yeah, Akarui is in both of the next chapters.
Kudai and Izuku are officially best buds. Sweet. I feel like this has been the case for a while, but I guess it was just one of those things that needed to be said.
Yeah. Like, I feel like they hit that stage a while ago, but it hadn't been verbalized until now.
With regards to the hero applicants, I think we'll be seeing more of Akabane and Shinzo down the road, more than the others, since you seem to spend a little more time on the 2 of them than the others. I'm eager to see your take on their involvement in coming events and how they affect them. That's for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Nabu Island, here we come. I loved the Heroes Rising movie, and I can't wait to see how Kudai and Team Ruby affect those events too. There's so many good things coming our way in the next few weeks. I love it.
I'll throw you guys out this little teaser for the Nabu Island arc. I'm actually creating a new villain to go along with the. You know me, like I like my checks and balances. So you got Team Ruby, you got Kudai in there. So if it was just the 4 villains from the movie, that I feel like the deck would be stacked a little too far in the favor of UA, so I got to make it a little extra hard for them. So you can look forward to that coming out.
Last thing I can't wait to see is how Tenya reacts to Kudai and Mina's plans to get married as soon as school is over for them. I seriously foresee possibly brain breaking. I seriously doubt that he'll react as poorly as he did last time, which leads me to believe that this time around it'll be a more humorous approach.
Yeah.
I foresee possible brain breaking on his part, but we'll see. Just a little chibi ghost comes out of Ida after hours of sputtering.
Yeah.
Excellent work. Keep it up. Happy writing and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. We're doing Thanksgiving next week. That's right.
That's a thing.
That is a thing. But for right now, we're gonna do another thing, and that is me reading you guys the newest chapter. So I'm gonna get to that, and then we'll be back to discuss the behind the scenes after the fact. So catch you in a minute.
From the moment I reached the other side, I could not hide from the great divide. I can't turn back time, I must know what's mine. Get back what I lost, no matter the cost. Is there no way home? Is there no way home?
Next in line. It had finally happened. Everyone in Class 1A had a provisional hero's license. After months of supplemental classes, Bakugo had finally come into his own as a fledgling hero alongside his classmates, and he was eager to prove that no matter how much longer they had been licensed, he was still better than them. Well, most of them anyway. "Just you wait, Saiyaman," he growled as he walked past Kudai's desk for their homeroom assembly. "You're gonna eat my dust this coming semester. In your dreams, blast him, explode." Kudai delivered the rebuttal without looking up from his notes concerning their next lesson's quadratic formulas. Before the blonde student could rail against his rival, Aizawa walked into the room, immediately resulting in everyone being in their seats with their heads turned forward. "I've been tasked with giving all of you some news that I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear," he said with his usual lack of enthusiasm. Each of the students braced themselves for his trademark delivery of extra assignments that would keep them glued to their textbooks well into the night, but instead he said, "The Heroes Safety Commission has reached out to multiple schools in the last few weeks, and they've requested our aid, or rather, the aid of the Hero Corps students who have provisional licenses." He paused as he clicked a button on a remote, which in turn caused a map of an island to appear on the blackboard behind him. "Due to crime being on the rise, the government is racing to relocate heroes who can better handle villain attacks from other areas, but places with low crime rates still need heroes to help them get by," he went on to say, not missing the looks of excitement that were starting to infect some of his students. "That's where provisionally licensed heroes like you come in. The bigwigs want you to be stationed at this place for 1 month, Nabu Island off the coast of southern Japan. It's a place with small population and a very low crime rate that used to have one hero assigned to it. He's retired, and the Safety Commission has yet to find a hero who is willing to take over for him permanently. Normally they'd put in someone closer to retirement or someone looking to start a new agency, but these are unusual circumstances." He looked out over them as he said in a grave tone, "You will be on your own, with no pros or teachers to back you up if something goes wrong. You will be responsible for each and every action that you take out there. You won't be treated as interns or even sidekicks. As far as this assignment goes, you will each be acting as pro-heroes in your own right. Again, this is something we would never normally even consider, but the truth is that the demand for heroes is starting to outweigh our nation's supply." The classroom was positively buzzing with excitement now, but Aizawa still wasn't finished. "You'll be set to leave in a few days, and be back a week before Christmas. Concerning your final exams, you will all be receiving marks equal to your total average over the semester for each class. Subjects that we intended to cover in the coming month will be worked into next semester's schedule." "Sir," Ida said as he raised his hand, "this is no doubt a great opportunity that is being given to us to demonstrate our worth as heroes and UA alumni. However, I cannot help but feel as though this is a very sudden matter. May we know why this has not been brought to our attention until now?" For a moment, their teacher seemed to be deciding whether or not to tell them something, but eventually he said, "Principal Nezu didn't want to risk your lives unnecessarily. He held out until the Safety Commission agreed to send you to a place beyond even the League of Villains' influence. Since Nabu has no strategic or great economic value to exploit, it's unlikely they would have any holdings there. Truthfully, he's been against this for quite a while, but the higher-ups have been putting a lot of pressure on us to do what they consider to be our part for the communities at large. So, here we are. Any further questions?" "None, sir." Ida said as he lowered his arm. Thank you for humoring my inquiry. All Might will be in soon to discuss the particulars of your assignment, including an orientation compiled by the hero who has chosen to retire, Aizawa said as he pulled his sleeping bag out from his podium. I have more paperwork to attend to, so consider this a free period until he shows up. Kodai's eyebrow went up as he watched their teacher exit the room. Why would he need a sleep sack to do paperwork? He thought with traces of amusement. I suppose he's got to take his sleep where he can get it. Already, the other students in the room were talking in clusters with barely contained excitement. Before Kodai knew it, Mina, Izuku, Ochako, Ida, Todoroki, and Yaoyorozu had formed one such group with him. This is going to be awesome, Mina said exuberantly. We're going to be real heroes. Yes, and this will be the perfect chance to show that UA has more to offer than troubling villain attacks, Ida declared. There was a brief silence among them before Kodai said, was that meant to be inspiring? Because, yes, I realized it sounded much worse as soon as I said it out loud. Ida sighed. I'm simply elated that we can finally do something good without risking the interest of the league. That didn't sound much better, man. You know what I meant. I know. Kodai grinned as he clapped his hand on his friend's shoulder. What do you say we call up Tensei tonight? Tell him the good news. Yes, Ida said, his expression lighting up again. A splendid idea. I'm sure he'll be pleased to hear about this. Witnessing this interaction got the others to smile, glad to see the two of them behaving more like they had during the beginning of the year. It'll be nice not to have to worry about active combat for a little while, Yaoyorozu was now saying. Yes, please. Kodai groaned as he hung his head as if tired. A whole month without having to blast a villain? Might as well call this thing a vacation. I wouldn't go that far, Todoroki cautioned his friend. We will be there to represent the next generation of heroes as well as our school. That said, I also hope this will be a month without incident. I'm kind of nervous, Ochako admitted. It's going to be all those people depending on us, and we won't be able to ask anyone to help us? It's a lot to think about, you know? Indeed it is, Ida said quickly. It's perfectly all right to consider the enormity of what is being asked of us. We'll be up to it, Izuku said confidently as he gave everyone a big smile. We're UA students. We've been through a lot together, and we can get through this too. Get through it? Kodai snorted. Nah, forget that noise, man. We're going to crush it, plus ultra style. Who all's with me? At that, everyone in the group gave their own affirmation, bolstering each other's spirits as it began to truly sink in that they were about to achieve their lifelong dreams of being actual pro heroes. So, you're going to be acting as pros for a whole month? Akururi asked as he moved in his wheelchair to rest against the coffee table in the teacher's lounge. All Might, Kodai, Izuku, and he were all gathered for a private meeting concerning the latest development of One for All. It would also be an opportunity for Kodai to spend some time with his brother before he left for Nabu Island. Several students had asked for and been granted permission to visit their families before they set out, but since Izuku had wanted to speak to Akururi in a secure place, it made sense for him to be allowed on campus at the behest of All Might when he appealed directly to the principal. That's right, the retired pro said to answer the paralyzed boy's question. I have no doubt that these two and their classmates are more than up to the task. Provided that Midoriya's quirk doesn't explode again, you mean? Yeah, something like that, Izuku admitted with a slight wince. I've tried to get Black Whip to activate again, but it hasn't happened. I even tried to enhance my power with energy from Giving Heart, but nothing unusual happened. Akururi seemed to think for a moment before he typed out, You said that when you activated Black Whip, you were pretty angry. You're sure that's not the trigger? If it is, I don't know if there's much I can do to train myself, the Greenette admitted. I wasn't just mad, I was completely furious with Monoma. The fifth user did say something about anger making the quirk work for me, but he also said that could be dangerous to rely on. He wanted me to master my heart or something to that effect. Akururi was still for another few seconds before saying, We might have you look into studying chakra centers like Kodai. If there are things clogging your spirit up, it might very well be hampering your ability to manifest One for All like these vestiges are trying to have you do. Kodai and Akururi exchanged a look. Kodai and Izuku exchanged a look before the former nodded and said, It's worth a shot, I guess. That's probably something we can work on while we're out in Nabu. I don't think that's such a good idea, All Might cautioned them. It's one thing to experiment here when you're in a controlled environment, but out there where people are looking to you to be the heroes they need, you can't risk shaking their faith in you, especially with circumstances being the way that they are. Kodai and Izuku exchanged a more disgruntled look this time, but they were forced to concede that their mentor was right. It was tempting to experiment when they were so clearly on the cusp of something enormous, but the people of Nabu Island would have to come first. We'll hold off on experimenting until we get back to school, Izuku promised All Might. In the meantime, I'll do what I can to research the previous users of One for All, Akururi added. Turning slightly toward All Might, he then asked, Do you happen to have the names of any of them? That would help my search a great deal. I only knew my master's name, Nana Shimura. All Might replied, a wistful look coming into his eyes as he said her name. Her quirk was called Float. It allowed her to stay up in the air for pretty much however long she wanted. She could fly? Kodai asked, unable to help his intrigue. Not after she gave me one for all Might said with a shake of his head. Still, she could definitely use it to get around. She would use it like she was stepping on an invisible platform in the air, triggering it only for a second at a time whenever she needed to take a step. If Midori could manifest her quirk the same way that he did with Black Whip, that is, a more powerful version of the original quirk, I think it is safe to say that he'll be able to fly when he masters it. Akudori commented, wouldn't that be something? I'll say, Kodai agreed. I would have killed to have a flight quirk when I fought that Nomu in Fukuoka. Would have saved me a lot of trouble on the return trip to the ground. In any case, I'll look into your master and any of her known associates that I can find, Akudori told All Might. I'll start by looking for anyone who matches the description of the man who passed One for All on to her. Maybe I'll be able to pick up on a trail that'll lead back to All for One's brother. I'll have Tsukuuchi and Gran Torino do some digging as well, see if they can spare the time, the retired pro said. I'll be in touch with you so we can compare notes. In the meantime, young Midoriya and young Hikari, focus on your upcoming mission. We are, sir, Kodai replied readily. We've been studying maps and their economy as a class in our spare hours, so we're getting familiar with the topography and the areas that are more likely to need our help. Ida and Yayorozu are already working on preliminary schedules for patrols and the like. All Might smiled at them, suitably impressed with their efforts. Sounds like you boys know what you're getting into, he told them. As long as you remember that your actions will have a lasting impact on their community, I'm sure you'll do great. You may only be on Nabu for a few weeks, but you should go and act with the thought in mind that these people will remember you after you've gone. At the end of your visit, what will they say about you? If Kodai is in the mix, nothing good. Does that speaker come with a mute button? Kodai muttered as he scowled at his brother, who was affecting to smile mischievously. About an hour later, the elder brother was showing his sibling what he had been able to do with his newly unsealed chakra. True speech. Rasen Shuriken! At his command, a large ball of rotating energy appeared above his hand with rapidly spinning blades that he then hurled at a column that had been left over by Cementos and Jim Gamma. The blade slashed through the rock like a hot knife through butter before the ball made contact and resulted in a terrific explosion that reduced the pillar to dust. Impressive, Akudori had to admit. I always thought that technique required too many moving parts for you to keep track of. It was very overcast outside, and the weatherman had predicted the season's first snowfall. In my normal state, yeah, Kodai admitted as he turned to his brother, his Adam's apple glowing sky blue. But with this ability, any object that I speak while infusing energon into the word will appear exactly as I've envisioned it. Here, check this out. Stepping a few paces away from his brother, he then said, True speech, Naginata! At that, the weapon he had imagined appeared in his hands, though it was a little disconcerting to him that the normally heavy instrument of violence weighed almost nothing. So, what's the trade-off? Akudori asked his brother as he willed the spear to vanish, which it quickly did. Everything else has cost you something in exchange for the power. What is it this time? No super strength or speed while it's active, Kodai answered as he released the power and rubbed his neck on reflex. Sore throat if I use it for too long, but it's not as bad as the headaches that I get with Divine Eye. Also, anything that I conjure while using it dissipates as soon as I turn it off. So, a useful tool for long-range attacks, but not much help in hand-to-hand. Only if you keep up that attitude, Kodai teased him. I thought you of all people wouldn't be discounting the fact that we learned to fight without quirks from the time that we started kindergarten. Even without my super strength and speed, I can conjure up any number of things to assist me with close quarters combat. Akudori nodded and made a concessional gesture with his hands before he typed out, What's the activation and dropout time? If it's like Endless Resolve, that's not something you want to use if someone is pressing for close quarters. You rely heavily on the enhanced speed and strength factors of your quirk. The body shield that Energon created when Kodai focused on his Manipura chakra had an instant activation, but required a full 5 seconds to come out of and allow for movement. Pretty much instant on both counts, Kodai informed him. The switch isn't much of a factor. It's actually been one of the easier ones to figure out in terms of timing. You're sure? I used it to beat the crap out of Bakugo the other day when he challenged me to a match. He had to hate that. On the contrary, Kodai smirked, I think it got him even more fired up to try and beat me in the future. So, are you two friends now? No, but I think you might say that his rivalry with Izuku and I has shifted in a more healthy direction. Akudori smiled a little before he said, Glad to hear it. Sidebar, are you going to visit Aunt Sakura and Shuken before you go? You only have a few days left and you haven't given them so much as a phone call in months. Kodai's smile faded to be replaced by a more uncertain look before he said, I don't know that... It doesn't seem like a good idea. I haven't seen either of them since you arrested Mom. Yeah, that. Kurt sighed as he moved to stand next to his brother and put his face in his left hand. I mean, how do I even go about interacting with them when that was the last time I saw them? I can't even imagine how awkward that would be. You don't have an issue talking to me. Awkwardly couldn't actually sound accusatory, but Kurt recognized his brother's irritation in the way that he was more smacking his fingers against the tablet instead of simply tapping them. You're my brother. That's a little different, he tried to say, but Akudori held up a hand to indicate that he wanted silence. Shuken is our cousin. Sakura is our aunt. They are no less family than you and I. Akudori paused and then resumed his irritated typing to say, I haven't said anything for a while because you needed time to process quite a bit. You mean the part where All for One used me as a human experiment to propagate Nomus? I nearly got pulled by another Nomu on the same day that I found that out. Then the teacher set me up to fight all my classmates because they needed to be sure that I could be contained on the off chance that I ever turned into a villain. Kodai deadpanned. Yes, that. Also, Mina and I unofficially got engaged. Akudori's fingers stopped short just of his tablet as he flicked his eyes to look up directly at his brother in utter surprise. You... What? He managed to get out with his actual voice. That part's a good thing, mind you, but it's still a big thing, Kurt said with a nervous grin. This is also not how I planned on telling you, but here we are. Akudori blinked a few times before a broad smile broke out onto his face, and he said, Congratulations. I'm happy for you. As am I. Ah! Kurt yelped as he spun around to see Ida standing a few feet away, Mina right behind him wearing a mischievous smile. Ida, how are you always here for whenever stuff like this comes out? He gasped. To Mina, he added, You told him? Yep. She gave him a wink before saying, I knew that if you had any time alone with Akudori, you'd end up telling him, and I figured it was only fair that your other brother be let in on the secret too. I'm glad that she did, the class rep said as he approached his friend and extended his hand. I know that we aren't as close as we used to be, and I still have my misgivings about the speed at which this already questionable relationship is moving. Tenya, Mina said with a warning tone. The change in her voice told Kurt they must have had some words before Ida was won around to their side of things, but he didn't care about that right now. He was just glad to have Ida be a part of this large event in his life. Yes, sorry. Ida apologized before Kurt grinned and reached out to shake his friend's hand. My own feelings on the matter itself aside, I do want you to be happy, Kurt. I've seen that Ashido does that for you, and in turn, how happy you make her. If you are both committed to this course of action with your whole hearts, then I will not bring myself to oppose it. No matter how many reasons that I could easily list why this is Tenya! Glad to know that you'll always be around to keep our heads on straight. Kurt laughed as he pulled his friend in for an embrace. And thanks for supporting us. Of course, I'm the class rep. It's my duty to support everyone to the best of my ability. Ida said as he returned the hug. Before Mina could reprimand him again, he added, And I'm your friend who is genuinely happy for you. As Kurt allowed the happiness of the moment to wash over him, he realized that deep inside, there was still one spot that could not feel as the rest of his spirit did. He knew that if he didn't address it soon, it was going to eat away at his conscience. So, in spite of the smile on his face and the laughter in his throat, he had the thought, I guess it may be time to face the music. A couple of days later, he was pulled aside by Aizawa after homeroom period finished. At first, he assumed he was about to get another lecture concerning his performance during his fight against Monoma, but it turned out that he was in for a much worse time than that. No way, he said as he shook his head rapidly. You can't throw me to those circus monkeys. It's not my call, the ragged man shrugged. Principal Nezu has already agreed to their request. Given your actions in the public eye during recent events, you would have been wise to foresee something like this coming to pass. Under normal circumstances, I would, Kurt complained, but I live on one of the most secure school campuses on the planet. What good are those giant walls if you're going to let those guys in and out, like whenever they feel like it? It's out of my hands, Aizawa said with an air of finality that Kurt knew he would be unwise to test further. They'll be setting up in the common space right after classes, so make sure that you're cleaned up by then. It won't be a live show, so they'll take a few weeks to edit the footage together before they release it to the public. Yes, sir. Kurt grumbled as he started to walk away. He stopped when his instructor told him, Hikari, for better or worse, your actions have singled you out as the rising star for your generation of heroes. People will be watching you from now on because they've seen what you can do on their behalf. I don't want to be under the spotlight, Kurt said as he turned back to look at his teacher. I've never set out to be a hero who amasses fame and fortune through their exploits. Men and women like them have their place in society, but I don't want to be one of them. I want to do my part for society without having to worry about which tabloid is watching out for a scoop or which interview I'm going to have to catch while I'm busy saving lives. I want to be like you. Aizawa raised an eyebrow at his student before he shrugged again and said, whether or not you go through this interview is ultimately up to you. The only question I would have you ask yourself is if ignoring the media would do more harm than good. I don't take your meaning, sir. Endeavor is the new #1 hero, the older man told him, and while he did a fine job in Fukuoka, his actions were undeniably overshadowed by your own efforts. People want to know what they can expect from the hero who seems to be destined to surpass him. Can they hope for a better future than the one led by the Flame Hero? Or can they expect the same indifference to their struggles when you come into your own? Kurai made a face and turned away to resume walking as he grumbled, I have to get to English, sir. What? Channel 5 wants to do an interview with you? Mina squealed excitedly as she sat down at the lunch table with her friends. That's so great, Kurai! Yeah, great is not the word I'm looking for right now, he muttered as he started to garnish his soup. Why not? Ochako asked as she tilted her head in confusion while Mina sobered her expression along with Izuku. Isn't publicity good for hero students like us? Kurai's family never had a good relationship with the media, and after his father's reputation was ruined, it got worse. Izuku reminded his girlfriend, who immediately reddened with shame. Oh my gosh, Kurai, I'm so sorry. Don't worry about it, he sighed. It's not your fault. Your family may not have a good relationship with the news, but that hasn't been the case for you since you came to UA, Mina pointed out, though Kurai was already shaking his head in the negative. My first interaction with the media was the same day the league broke on a campus, Kurai reminded her. I hit their equipment with an electromagnetic burst from a device that Yamamoto had made a couple days before that, so they'd stop heckling me. She gave you an EMP grenade? It was the same one that I used against Jiro and Kaminari during the fight training. Oh, now I remember. Mina nodded thoughtfully. Still, everything after that has been good, and the forums have had nothing but good stuff to say about you ever since you and I worked with Gang Orca. That still doesn't help me to shake the feeling that somehow my dad is going to come up during the interview, Kurai muttered as he poked his food dispassionately. I kind of doubt it, Izuku said, appearing thoughtful. Why? Media channels bank a lot of their success on which heroes they can get to attend interviews with them, he began. The more successful the hero they host, the more viewers they'll have. If you're already showing this level of success before you even go pro, any news station will be lucky to interview you. If they build up a good working relationship with you, their own viewership will increase as they follow your career. On the other hand, if they do something to alienate you and another news channel that's more accommodating to you starts to get you on their show regularly, they'll lose views to that rival network. At this point in time, they can't afford to offend you because of the level of success you'll probably attain after graduation, Izuku finished. If the interviewer has done their homework, they'll know that bringing up your dad would be negative press, and you'd probably never want to do business with them again. Kurai thought for a moment before he asked, Did All Might ever burn any news stations like that? No, because everyone wanted to be on his good side, Izuku said with a shake of his head. Just like you. Kurai muttered before he started eating his soup. You know, most people would take it as a compliment to be compared to All Might, Mina said as she nudged him with her elbow. This is a good thing that's happening, Kurai. People are being inspired by you and what you did in Fukuoka, and even before that. Kurai swallowed his food before he answered, I know all that. It's just, I never saw myself as being like All Might. I never prepared myself for this, being this kind of hero. But aren't there other things that you haven't prepared for that turned out really good? Ochako asked him. You never expected to meet Mina, and look how that's turned out. In spite of himself, Kurai couldn't stop a smile from spreading on his face as he felt Mina's familiar grip work its way into his hand. All right, fair enough, he conceded. I still don't know how I feel about this interview, though. Why? Mina asked him. Kurai hesitated before saying in an uncharacteristically small voice, Every time I've been on camera, there's been someone with me. The first time I was with Ida, then Gang Orca, and then this last time I had Tsukauchi. You were by yourself right after you survived crashing into the ground from the sky, she countered. That was for like 10 seconds, and I'm pretty sure I was concussed. Doesn't count. Why not ask if you couldn't bring a guest speaker? Izuku suggested. If they're giving you short notice on this interview, it's only fair that they be accommodating to you. Kurai perked up at that idea, so he nodded and said, Good idea. Any volunteers? Thank you for humoring us today, Mr. Hikari, said the lady who was apparently going to be conducting the interview. We appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us. Not a problem. Kurai lied through a smile as he shook hands with her. Do you mind if we go over topics of discussion before we get the cameras rolling? Of course, the lady said with a friendly smile. Behind her, a crammer crew was setting up in front of one of the common room couches so that Kodai would have a comfortable seat for when the talk began. He was dressed in a school uniform, and Mina had made sure that his hair wasn't completely messed up from their time during combat practice earlier in the day. Mostly, we'd just like to talk to you about your experiences and interactions at UA concerning your classmates, though as I'm sure you're aware, people will want to hear about your battles since becoming a provisionally licensed hero, the reporter informed him as she looked down at some of her notes. My bosses also wanted to see if you would care to comment on your, physical changes since you were seen at the sports festival, the first time that you addressed national television. She had the grace to look a little embarrassed as her eyes wandered toward his metal hand, which had come up to unconsciously brush the strands of his silver shock on the right side of his head. Kodai glanced over at Mina, who nodded with an encouraging smile from where she stood next to Ida, Izuku, Ochako, and Todoroki. Turning back to the reporter, he gave a single nod and said, I'd be willing to provide a brief statement on the subject. Thank you, she said, looking a little relieved. Given your family history, we weren't sure that you would be willing to sit down with us at all. At that, Kodai's eyes narrowed with irritation. Before the lady could really take note of this, however, he simply said, If it's all the same to you, I'd rather not discuss my family on camera. Oh? She asked, apparently realizing she had somehow annoyed the young hero. Are you sure? We did want to ask about ma'am. Kodai said to cut her off with a blunt tone. My family's history and current affairs are a sensitive matter and not a topic I'd like to discuss. I'll be willing to accommodate questions pertaining to the subjects we've already mentioned, but as you can imagine, the losses my family has had to suffer is not something I'd like to reflect on in front of your viewers. All right, that's fine, the woman said as she jotted down a note on her paper. I'm sorry if I came across as intrusive. Bit of a requirement in your line of work, Kodai answered with a slight grin to show that he would not hold this against her. As long as she doesn't bring it up again or try to pull a fast one on me, he thought as he put a hand in his pocket where his phone lay, recording the entire conversation. It wouldn't hurt to have some insurance just in case the media tried to edit the following conversation into something less than flattering for his school. We'll be getting started in 5 minutes. Do you need anything before we begin? The reporter asked him as she finished scribbling in her notepad. Actually, yes, Kodai nodded as he moved toward the couch. I'd prefer it if I could have 2 of my classmates sit in for the interview. Perfect. The reporter smiled as she put her notepad down on the couch that she would be occupying across the coffee table from Kodai. As I said before, we wanted to get a look at your relationship with some of your classmates if at all possible. We'd be happy to have them sit in with you. Did you have someone in mind? A few minutes later, the cameras were rolling and Kodai was sitting in the middle of the couch, with Ida on his left side and Mina sitting closer to his right. The reporter, whose name was Hayori, started the interview by addressing the 3 students after explaining to the future audiences that they were filming on UA's campus. We have with us today 3 students from Class 1A, she began. Tanya Ida, hero name Ingenium. Mina Ashido, hero name Acid Queen. And of course, the young man who needs no introduction, Kodai Hikari, hero name Kai. Thank you so much to the 3 of you for taking the time to talk with us. It is our pleasure to do so, Ida said quickly. Super pumped to be here, Mina said with a charming smile. Thank you for having us on your show, Kodai replied politely. Kai, our station has been flooded with requests in recent weeks for us to have a closer look at the hero who has already garnered more attention in less than a year than many pros will achieve in a lifetime, Hayori said as she glanced down at her notes. You've each had impressive starts to your hero careers. All of you survived the initial attack from the League of Villains, and less than a month later, you wanted to place quite high in the sports festival. Ingenium, you ranked in the top 8, correct? Yes, indeed, Ida nodded. Looking at Kodai, he added, In fact, it was by none other than Kodai that I was stopped in my tracks. I gave him my best shot, but his training and tenacity enabled him to overcome me at that time. You didn't make it easy for me, Kodai snickered, the 2 of them sharing in a brief laugh. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the 2 of you knew each other from before UA, correct? Hayori asked. Yeah, we attended the Somei Private Academy together for junior high, Kodai replied, turning his attention back to the reporter. We've been friends pretty much since elementary school, though. So, did the 2 of you decide to become heroes together? I suppose we did. Ida nodded as he and Kodai shared another look. I wanted to become like my brother, the original Ingenium, a man whom we both admire a great deal, even unto this day. My family has been heroes for generations, but it is because of my elder brother's example that I strive to become the best hero I can possibly be. Yeah, Tensei's influence was a big factor in me deciding to become a hero, Kodai agreed. I would say the world is a much better place for his influence than because of the 2 of you, Hayori said with another smile. Turning slightly to address Mina, she then said, Acid Queen, you also made it to the tournament bracket, but were defeated by Kai in the first round. Though, if I'm not mistaken, you 2 worked together during the cavalry battle event? That's right, Mina chirped, maintaining her friendly attitude. Kurtai and I actually met during the entrance exam, and we worked pretty well together ever since. It was a bummer losing to him during the fighting part of the tournament, but I guess if I had to lose to anyone, I'm glad it was him. We also worked together for a gang orcas raid during our internships in the first semester, Kurtai reminded them. She helped me get a lot of the captives to freedom while I was busy getting my shoulder dislocated like an idiot, so honestly, she was the real hero in that situation. You dislocated your shoulder during that raid? Ida asked, turning to his friend in surprise. Yeah, didn't I tell you about that? If you did, I can't recall. Well, when we're getting started, Gang Orca has me break down the door to the bad guy's lair, but I got a little carried away and ended up crashing through the wall to find a bunch of guns pointed in my face from all directions. Kurtai said as he grinned sheepishly. Next thing I know, I'm up in the rafters, trying not to get shot while I take out the gunmen on the walkways. I shoot out the supports to make the bridge collapse, and only then do I realize that some of our guys are in the line of fire. He had actually almost dropped the metal structure on a cage full of children, but he decided it would be better to be vague with his wording concerning this part of the narrative. It's moving too fast for me to make a laser that'll push it off course in time, so I just did the first thing I could think of and shoulder checked it so that it missed everyone. In the process, however, he shrugged and mimicked a cracking sound as he patted his right collar. Well, at least no one was permanently injured, Ida offered, to which he nodded. And how was it, getting to work with a classmate in the field? Hayori asked, addressing the question to both Kurtai and Mina. Did you find it reassuring to have someone you were familiar with beside you? Well, Kurtai hesitated, so Mina took over. Our interaction during the raid was pretty minimal, she told the other woman. He was on the team that beat up the bad guys, and I helped to rescue the captives. We probably saw each other for less than a minute while the whole thing went down. As she spoke, she noted that her boyfriend seemed to be holding up well so far. The last time he had sat down for a formal interview, he had been under the close eye of his then mentor, Gang Orca. Now that he was more on his own, he seemed apprehensive about being put in the public eye again, but it appeared as though he was doing well for the moment. I see. Hayori nodded slowly in response to Mina's recollection of the slavers' raid. The two of you seem to be rather close for a couple of students who have known each other for less than a year. Even if you didn't interact much during the raid itself, would you say that the experience brought you two closer together? Yeah, Mina answered quickly while Kurtai nodded silently. It was dumb luck that we wound up working the same assignment since we were separate agencies, but I would say that facing the same villains definitely made for a sympathetic experience. Not to mention that it's happened, 3 times now? Kurtai turned to Mina for confirmation, and she gave a nod of her own in response. The USJ, Animod's gang, and Island, she confirmed. Didn't you both survive the Second League attack during the summer together? Kurtai shrugged as he held up his mechanical arm and made a face. Unfortunately, Ashido and I were unable to assist Kurtai when he came under attack by the villain known as Moonfish, who was responsible for his current condition, Ida said grimly as he adjusted his glasses. Thanks to the quick thinking and capabilities of some of our other classmates, Kurtai continues to live and breathe, but I cannot look back on that night without remembering how helpless I felt when I learned what happened to him. He shifted his gaze to look directly at the camera lens as he went on to say, I never want to be powerless to use my quirk to help others again. That's why I worked so hard to gain my provisional license, so the next time that I hear there is trouble, I can be ready to assist as a hero. Ditto, Mina said in an uncharacteristically somber voice. Kurtai has inspired a lot of us in Class A to do better than we ever thought we could. I'm pretty sure he's inspired people outside of our classroom, too. You'd be right, Hayori said as she indicated a small display screen that had been set up on the side of the coffee table, out of the lens shot. When the 3 students looked at the dark screen with intrigue, the reporter went on to say, We spent a few days before this interview asking people what they thought of Kai, particularly the younger crowd. Here's what a few of them had to say. The screen flickered for a second, and then the trio was greeted with a sight of a young couple with their baby and a girl in a stroller, both of them smiling as they looked into the camera. The man then said, If you're getting a chance to watch this, Kai, then I want you to know that we think you're the coolest hero out there today. We were both super bummed when All Might said he was going to retire, but then we saw your fight the other day and we both just started smiling, his wife said as she beamed at the camera, because we both knew that even though All Might is gone, the world still has a hero like you in it. We're grateful to you for your efforts, and we look forward to seeing our little girl grow up in a world where you're protecting us, the man added before they waved at the camera, with the mother assisting her unknowing child and waving along with them as they laughed. The next clip showed a couple of grade schoolers, mostly boys, who were clamoring over one another to send Kai the message that they were his #1 fans. Following that was a pair of university students who wished him well in his career, then a high school girl and her younger brother saying that the League of Villains was done for with him around, and so on. For 3 minutes, the students watched as people from across the country spoke nothing but well wishes for the rising young hero. Throughout all of this, Kurtai kept his expression blank, with his mouth hidden behind his metallic hand, even when his friends kept checking on him from the corner of their eyes to see how the montage was affecting him. For the final clip, Hayori said, Now, this last group was not spoken to at random, but I think you'll be interested in what they had to say. Before any of the students could ask what she was talking about, the TV changed to show a group of 20-odd children of all ages. They didn't look familiar to any of the young heroes, but it didn't take long before Kurai and Mina's hands found each other and locked on tight. "Thank you for rescuing us, Kai," the group said with one voice. "These are some of the children who you rescued alongside Gang Orca," Hayori confirmed for the young heroes before they could even ask. "I was super happy to see you beating up that monster, just like you beat up the bad guys with guns," said a little boy near the front. "You're amazing, Kai," added an older teen toward the back. "I'm going to be a hero like you when I grow up," declared a small girl with fire for hair. "I still like All Might better, but you're awesome too," chirped a 4-year-old with a shark's fin and sharp teeth. There were other comments from the children, but at that one, Kurai burst out laughing. He was actually holding his signs as he started to wheeze painfully while he desperately tried to rein himself in, with Ida giving him a stern look while Mina appeared more concerned. "I'm sorry," he gasped once he had a modicum of control. The little guy does not know how to hold back. I like him. The class representative went to reprimand him for an inappropriate reaction, but he stopped when he saw that there were tears running down his friend's face, too many to be just from laughing. "Kai, are you all right?" Hayori asked Kurai as the monitor blinked off, who quickly nodded through his smile. "Yeah, sorry," he said as he continued to stifle his chuckles. "I just wasn't expecting all of that." "Your actions have reached out across a nation," the reporter said warmly as Mina began to rub her boyfriend's back. "We thought it might be nice if you could see just how much you've already done for everyone in a world that seems so uncertain in recent days." "Thank you for sharing that." Kurai nodded as he wiped at his eyes, his laughter finally having subsided. "After that fight in Fukuoka, I said that I was ready to stand my ground, but I never expected to see so many people who wanted me to stand for them." "We're just glad that you get to see it too," Mina said with an affectionate smile that finally caught Hayori's attention. "There's something I've been meaning to ask, Kai," she said a little slowly as if testing the waters before wading all the way in. "Rumors have circulated for some time now that you were romantically involved with a fellow classmate. Is that true?" Mina and Kurai exchanged a look before the pink girl grinned and added, "Rumor confirmed." She gave the camera a quick wink and added, "Sorry, ladies, this one's all mine." "I think I just heard a lot of shattered hearts," Hayori laughed, causing Kurai to turn redder than Yajirozu's costume. She then checked her watch before she sighed and said, Since we unfortunately only have time for a short interview, do the three of you have any closing statements you'd like to give?" "Yes," Edith said as he stood up and even straighter than before. "I wish for all those out there who once depended on my brother to know that I am on my way. I know that I could never take his place, but Tensei entrusted the name Ingenium to me, so I shall do my best to live up to the expectations that come with it. I'll just say that once I hit the streets, it's going to be stomp a clock for any villains dumb enough to commit a crime where I can reach them." Mina grinned roguishly. "Very nice." Hayori smiled before she turned to Kurai. "And how about you, Kai? People all over are saying that you're next in line to lead the heroes of today. Any comment?" "Yeah," he said as he nodded slowly. "Like that kid said, I'm not All Might, and honestly, I've never aspired to be like him. That might seem strange coming from one of his students, as well as someone on the receiving end of so many compliments from people who seem to be hoping that I'll take his place soon, but it's the truth. With that being said, I've started to realize that whoever holds the number one spot doesn't need to be exactly like All Might to inspire others to be better. So I won't try to be him, or a stand-in for him. I'm going to be me because I don't need to be anyone other than Kai to become the best hero I can be. Also," Kurai grinned as he glanced over his shoulder for less than a second before he added, "I'm not the only one that people should be on the lookout for. If they're not careful, folks might just miss the view when one of my classmates flies past me and turns out to be the next number one that everybody's been waiting for." Late that evening, Kurai sighed as he shut off his laptop and rubbed his tired eyes, having just finished updating his journal with the week's events. Mina had fallen asleep on his bed with her face planted firmly on her math textbook and a pencil held loosely in her hand, and since he couldn't find it in him to wake her up, he decided to head down to the common space for a warm drink before he would crash for the night. Even though his girlfriend was a heavy sleeper, he made sure to move silently as he exited his room and shut the door behind him before making it to the elevator. When he made it to the kitchen, he was a little surprised to find that it was already lit and occupied by another one of his friends. "Can't sleep?" he asked Todoroki as he approached. As the other boy turned to see who had addressed him, he added, "You and Bakugo are usually the first ones in bed." "I had something that I needed to think about." His friend shrugged as Kurai went for the tea drawer. "Unfortunately, since I started, I can't seem to stop thinking about it." "Everything okay?" Kurai asked with a slight frown. "My father wants me to work with him if and when our work studies resume," Todoroki said blandly. It seems as though my decision to work for Hawks during the last semester was not enough to deter his efforts in pursuing me. My personal feelings about him aside, he is the new #1 hero for society. There are things I could learn from him if I were to agree to the proposal. Kurdai took a moment to think on what his friend had told him before he moved to start the kettle and say, I guess the real question is whether or not you'll be able to keep your personal feelings aside when you're working with him, while you're advancing the beginnings of your hero career. Are you sure it's a good idea to add that level of stress to such an environment, especially with the way things are right now? Maybe not, but there was one other thing I should have mentioned. Todoroki murmured as he looked down at his phone. He wanted me to extend an offer to intern under him to you. Both of Kurdai's eyebrows went up at that piece of news. How do you even get a message to your number? He couldn't help but ask as he tried to process what was being offered to him. I thought you blocked him. I decided to let him through after your fight in Fukuoka, so you wouldn't have to be used as a go-between again. The other boy shrugged. I haven't said anything back to him yet, but he's persistent with his offer. I'm guessing your answer will depend on whether or not I also accept? Kurdai inquired with a dry tone, to which Todoroki nodded once. I don't know, man. It's a good opportunity on paper, but we both have some glaring issues with the guy that would more than likely translate into a poor working relationship. It wouldn't be good for his public image, nor ours. I also don't trust his motive. What do you mean? He just made his debut as the #1 hero and incinerated a Nomu capable of speech and thought, which was pretty damn impressive if we're being honest. Kurdai said a little begrudgingly. However, the only thing that everybody seems to be talking about is the first-year hero student who fought a monster of similar strength and came out on top with fewer casualties and collateral damage by comparison. The people who had been mutated by the Nomu that Kurdai had destroyed were all returning to their normal states, as the infection caused by the spore quirk turned out to be temporary. Knowing that, the boy went on to add, my bet is that he didn't like being upstaged by the kid who everyone is basically saying will be the next All Might. If he takes me into his agency, it'll be a chance for him to take credit for anything that I do from here on out. Todoroki seemed to mull that over for a moment before he shrugged and said, You're probably right. After all, his obsession with surpassing All Might is what drove him to abuse my mother, me, and my siblings. If you remind him of All Might, he may be trying to keep you from rising above him. Kurdai allowed a brief silence to ensue before the kettle started whistling, so he turned off the stove and said, You don't sound entirely convinced. I believe it was you who taught me that people can change, Todoroki answered. Are you going back on that thought? No, but I also have a hard time letting go of well-established personal biases, Kurdai admitted dryly. Exhibit A being my vendetta against Needlemouse, followed by my grudge match against Monoma. But you were able to let go of your anger in favor of doing the right thing when you were confronted by your uncle's killer, his friend reminded him. Even if you'll never be rid of your hatred for the man, you were still able to take the course of action that led to the path of virtue. Kurdai scowled a little bit before muttering, I hate it when people use me against me. Make it too hard to argue a counterpoint. Sounds like we both have some thinking to do then, Todoroki said as Kurdai poured the steaming water into a mug with strong-smelling tea. I'm still leaning toward asking Fat Gum or Gang Orca to take me on again, but we'll see, Kurdai sighed. Thanks for letting me know, either way. You're welcome, that heterochromic boy replied. I hope you get some rest. Me too, the other student sighed again. Not exactly looking forward to tomorrow, if I'm being honest. Why? What's happening tomorrow?
Even if they doubt me, push me where I stand, I will say it proudly, soon you know who I am. There is something that sleeps within you, listen close. You will soon know every door that is open for you, one is closed. Soon you'll know what's on the other side.
All right. So normally I record these first, and then we do these like a day or so after. So my voice is just like ugh right now.
And I led worship tonight and was talking with a bunch of ladies for like 3 hours after teaching for a full day.
But were they as loud as my mother?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause some of them get up there. Okay, all right.
No, your mom's chill. She's not that loud. All right.
So how did that one start
How
out?
did it start? I'm like, whoa.
Started with Aizawa talking to them about...
That's right.
Yeah, that scene I more or less pulled from the exposition scene in the movie.
when like Deku kind of has a flashback to like, so what are we doing here? And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they, explain
Why,
we're
where they're going.
to Naboo. Not to be confused with Naboo. I'm sure. And so of course we've got some mixed feelings, very excited, very nervous. They have to be adults in the situation.
Yeah, I wanted to, like, going into that scene, I wanted to take the moment to, like, expand on how the class must have been feeling at the time. Because, like, they just kind of, like, show, like, everybody kind of being excited individually, but they didn't, like, it's a movie. They only have so much time, so them, like, breaking down is like, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this probably would have been too much of a segue.
That,
but in this format, I think it works.
Sorry. Aizawa getting back into a sleeping bag and hopping away is such a mood. Oh my gosh. I wish I could do that, but I'm responsible, so I can't. Maybe when I'm No. Let's be real. High schoolers around here cannot handle that kind of freedom. Okay. Yeah. Moving on. Sorry. I'm sitting here wrapped up in blankets because it's too cold.
Yeah.
It is too cold.
You're sitting like right for context. She's sitting like 4 feet away from a heater that is on.
Okay, we're from New Mexico. It is not supposed to be this cold this time of year. Normally, we'll have 1 or 2 nights where we reach freezing, and that's it. We usually, this time of year in November, normally it's in the 60s by the afternoon. I am, as a New Mexican, am personally offended that it has not gone above 40 for the last 24 hours. And that's in Fahrenheit.
This is going to make me sound like such a grandpa, but I used to walk to school when I lived in Virginia. And by this time, there had usually been some pretty heavy snowfall at least once. I just remember I don't remember. I can't count the number of times that like the snow would freeze over like on the sidewalks, because they salt the streets, but the sidewalks would get all iced up. So I'd be like walking up this hill to my school, and I would just slip and
that hill.
What?
He doesn't know that song. He hasn't seen Stranger Things. Never mind.
So I would slip and fall either on my knees or my butt or oh man, that hurt.
Uncivilized.
It was not, like, and it wasn't even a big hill. That I think was the most frustrating part. Like, it wasn't even a long walk, but the amount of times I could injure myself just getting to school was so annoying.
What possesses people to live in such places? I don't know.
It looks really pretty.
Ugh. I'm sure it's beautiful. But I mean, I come from the state where we get an inch of snow and they cancel school because all of our school buses can't handle the cold and the fuel lines freeze over. So that happened when I was a kid. Yes, when I was a kid, we had a week without school because it got so cold.
Because the fuel lines froze?
All the fuel lines in the school buses froze.
So like what? Were like people not able to like get gas at the gas stations?
Not a button. The school buses.
The school buses, okay. Why didn't they just load the school buses with gas from Costco or something?
The fuel lines were frozen.
Like, I don't understand. Like,
the fuel lines in the bus.
Oh, in the bus itself.
Were frozen.
Oh,
because we don't have vehicles that are made for the cold.
Okay, that's just poor design.
So, well, yeah, it's New Mexican bureaucracy at its finest, buying cheap crap.
Albuquerque Rapid Transit is New Mexico bureaucracy at its finest.
Oh no, but this was before Albuquerque Rapid Transit.
I stand by what I said.
So,
anyways,
for you guys who aren't from Albuquerque, we paid for the most insane multi-million-dollar project of free eco-friendly buses. No one rides them.
They don't work.
They They run into things all the time. They have been stolen. We've had a couple be stolen.
What? How does somebody steal that?
It happens. And
only New Mexico. Oh.
And everyone's afraid to ride them because the only people who ride them are crackheads.
Yeah.
So it's bro. Anyway,
yeah.
We live in a great place.
Yeah. The governor was the mayor was like, let's be like Europe. We're not Europe.
It was our previous mayor, and our current mayor tried to fix what had been done He's not much better. But
Yeah.
anyway, sorry. Total random tangent about cold weather and buses because I am cold. We keep the thermostat at like 70, but I'm cold, okay?
My wife is broken.
I am. Okay. Sorry. Where were we? They're excited to go
They're
to the
excited
island.
to go to the island. Yeah. And then, let's see what happened. Wait a minute. What happened after that? I literally just read through this, and I'm having trouble.
We have the TV interview.
The interview doesn't happen for a minute.
Oh, he talks with
Akurui comes in.
Yeah.
Akurui comes in for a meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of you guys were talking about how you wanted, Akurui to be a part of to be a part of like the development of One for All and all that, and so his like I wanted him to be a part of it for a while, but I couldn't figure out like what angle to make him work. But then I was like, but I don't even remember where I got the idea. I was like, wait, maybe he should have Deku work on chakras like he has his brother, to give him a better handle on his emotional state. I honestly don't remember where or even when that idea came up, but it seemed like it fit really well.
And of course, he has great feedback, and they're able to talk shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Akurui being the fantabulous brother he is, and kind of pushing Kudai, be like, "Hey, dude, like you need to make things right with our family."
Well, first we had Kudai like kind of getting to show off a little bit. And you can tell he's excited. He's excited. He like there's a little bit of that showing off coming in because I'm honestly trying to remember if I ever like tried to show off to my younger brothers, and I'm sure that I did at some point, but I can't recall any specific examples other than me being like, "Hey guys, I got the coolest wife ever."
You're funny.
But yeah, so I always enjoy writing these interactions between the two of them.
I think that the engagement announcement between Akurui and Ida, I think that it absolutely lived up to the hype.
Did it?
I thought it was hilarious. I was sitting here recording, and I'm sitting here stifling laughs.
If you hear laughter in the background while the recording's happening, that was her.
If it doesn't pick up your obnoxious chair, it's not going to pick up.
Probably not. Probably not.
On the other side of the room. But no, I loved it.
I honestly just decided to throw a Hail Mary with Ida finding out now. Like, I thought about him, like, originally I was going to have him find out later along with some of the others, but I was just like, nah, this is funny. This is going to be really funny. I'm going to do it this way instead.
No, I loved it. And it was precious how Akurui used his own voice, and my heart was just kind of shattered a little bit.
So he's able to talk a little bit still. Obviously he's not holding up full conversations like that, but if he so desires, he can talk a little bit.
Which is good.
Yeah. So he's not backsliding again. He's kind of maintaining his current status.
And then we have Aizawa approaching him about the TV interview.
Yes.
And he's super nervous, and we just have precious emotional support friends jumping in to the rescue and getting him.
Emotional support friends are a must.
Absolutely.
Don't go through life without them.
And I thought that the interview was great. I mean, I think it was fun. They each kind of showed their personalities, but they played it cool with the questions.
Yeah. I wanted the interview to like go well, for lack of a better term, but I also so the scene with them at lunch, I actually wrote after the interview had been done.
Oh.
Yeah, because and I made a few tweaks after the because I wanted to have a like plausible reason for why the interview would go well that would make sense to Kurai and would allow him to lower his guard just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like we still had him like, taking precautions. He's recording everything on his end just in case he needs to be like
I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant. Makes sense."
So yeah, he's got his insurance if he needs it.
Yeah.
But he wasn't like he wasn't giving him the cold shoulder the whole time like he probably would have done in the past. Because he's different than he was at the beginning of the school year. He has people beside him that he trusts. Like I honestly, for a while, had a hard time figuring out who was going to sit in with him other than Mina. Like, obviously, Mina was a given. But I decided to go with Ida because they have the longest history together, and they know how, like, even unconsciously, they know each other's tells. They know how to cover for each other. They know how to support each other when it looks like something's getting a little testy, and he knows that.
Yeah.
So he figured it was best to have.
He's the class rep. He's good at articulating himself for the most part. It's Ida we're talking about.
Yeah.
So he'd have some pretty good
I thought
presence.
Deku was the runner-up because.
Well, yeah,
but
because he's
but it would have been a more comedic interview.
Yeah.
If that had happened, because Deku's
more
like not
the
used
Deku Bakugo Todoroki interview.
to. Deku wasn't in that interview.
He wasn't?
No, it was just Bakugo and Todoroki.
Oh,
Remember, they
gosh.
cut out everything that
That's
Bakugo said
right.
because he was so angry the whole time.
Oh my gosh. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
love
Deku
it.
wasn't part of that. No, they had Mount Lady come in and conduct mock interviews because of how badly Bakugo did. They were like, okay, we need to get these kids used to being in front of cameras. So
That's right.
that's probably what you're thinking of.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
But no, it was
It would have been harder to keep the interview going in the direction that I felt the story needed it to go.
Yeah.
If Deku was in it, so Ida was the one I decided to bring in.
Yeah, and I like that you had the lunch scene because it kind of gives us a recap. Okay, this is his history. This is why he feels the way he does.
Yeah.
And he's having to process through this, and this is why it's important for his friends to be there. And then of course, super sweet with the little kids and the tears and the
the bit with like everybody like thanking him for what he's done, like especially like I really enjoyed being able to throw in a callback to something that far back. Like I think it's been almost 2 years since I wrote that. Since I wrote that part of the story. And I really enjoyed being able to bring up that callback to something that I threw into the story. Like that was my own arc.
Yeah,
Like,
I remember especially with the little item that Yairozu made, we had controversy on the reviews about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
I don't remember that.
Somebody was all, why? What? No, that doesn't make any sense. He couldn't just use that. There's somebody got all mad at you. I don't even remember. It was kind of funny. It was so long ago.
I do not remember that at all because that chapter's like that was like chapter 4, I think, and we're hitting chapter 70 here.
Yeah, you got some heat with that scene. That's all I remember.
I don't remember that.
I think there was a particular person who was like chewing you out about every little thing, and it was like,
oh
buddy.
yeah, that's right. That's
Buddy.
That I was like, all right, man, get out of here. You're.
Well,
you're
I
just...
mean, he continued for a really long time, but after a while, it was getting so like combative that we're like, okay, buddy, come.
It's like this isn't even constructive criticism. This is you're just heckling. You're just heckling me for the sake of heckling. Like the criticisms weren't even making sense anymore.
It took quite a few chapters to get to that point, but at first it was. Just
I was like, if you don't like the story, stop reading it.
Yeah. Anyway, no, that was a long time ago though.
Yeah.
I was when you read that though. I was
we were like still in an apartment when
we were.
when
we hadn't bought a house yet.
Nah, not even.
Yeah. So anyway, but I remember having that review and being like, it's fiction.
There's a lot of wacky stuff that happens in the story, and that's your problem. Whatever.
Anyway, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember what happened after the interview.
After that, he has a conversation with Todoroki about their prospects concerning the future.
That's right.
After their time on Nabu.
Endeavor is offering the internship, which of course in the canon, Deku and Bakugo take.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see what people think about whether Kudai will take the offer.
And what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we kind of have a cliffhanger because Kudai's going to be doing something tomorrow, but for you guys it's going to be in 2 weeks. So have fun wondering what he's going to be doing.
All right. Well, I think that's about it.
Yeah. This was like, how do I put it, like, what's up?
I just like you.
I like you.
Leave me alone.
She's like petting my face. Yeah, I had fun with this chapter. Like, it doesn't, like, there's not like a whole lot happening. I guess you could say. Like, it's just kind of bridge material, you might say. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't
But it's a
wouldn't
good-
quite use the word fluff.
No, it's a
or
good
filler.
No, it's not filler. It's a good segue, and there's good character development, and it gives us some good context for everything that's happening moving forward.
It's a really good play. I wanted to do this chapter because I wanted to like take a moment and see where these characters are at outside of combat situations.
Yeah, which we've done in the past.
Yes.
And so
It just
have
seemed like this was a
another
good place to do it.
transition. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like if I just went straight into the movie arc, that would have felt too jarring.
Well, yeah, because the movie felt jarring. You're like, whoa, how did we get here? Whoa, okay, I guess we're here.
I remember when we first watched the movie, you were saying that you actually liked this one better than the first in terms of its setup because you felt like it made more sense for them to be there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
with the timing,
you just felt like the timing was a
it
little
made
off.
sense. I think the first one, it's like, whoa, okay, when is this supposed to take place? We're suddenly on an airplane. What? And so I didn't have context, so I was a little confused. And this one, in the movie, we got the context. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this makes sense. It fits into the canon. I'm not sitting here and getting all judgy because it doesn't fit into the canon, because that's what I do. It makes me salty when things don't fit into the canon. Sue me, all right?
Robin just watched the first movie today.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
you'll have to tell us what you
Yeah,
thought.
he's like I'm tired of not having seen the movies. I gotta catch up.
Yes, and dude, you gotta watch the second movie, man.
Yep.
That,
We'll have a watch party for that one.
Oh yeah,
We'll have
nice.
a watch party. We'll
There
do
you
it.
go.
We'll make it work. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, for the Americans, happy Thanksgiving.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you who are in the States.
And for everybody else,
Have a good
happy
couple of weeks.
Thanksgiving. No, have some good weeks.
Yep.
I don't know.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see you guys soon. Happy holidays, almost. Kind of. Yeah.
Kind of a little bit. Someone made me set up a Christmas tree early.
I didn't make you. You did that of your own volition.
No,
sir.
I did not.
Okay.
I
so
did not.
As long as I've known this guy, he's been Mr. Obnoxious, like, no Christmas until after Thanksgiving. Which,
People pass over Thanksgiving
Yeah.
as an unimportant holiday. It is important to our country's history. I don't like how people are trying to gloss over it, so I'm like, no.
no, it's,
Thanksgiving happens first and then Christmas.
well, no, it's important. And I've always been of the firm belief that you shouldn't put up, for me, I think waiting until December, like, I used to not do it until December 1st. But, I honestly, it's like, if it's there and you feel like it, why not? And, I mean, we only set it up because you bought a tree
Yeah,
and it was
and we
in the
didn't
living room.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't feel like I didn't feel like putting it in storage and then dragging it out a week later because
Yeah.
what my family's always done is we set up the tree the day after Thanksgiving. Like we'll be eating Thanksgiving leftovers and setting up the tree and deck the
Yeah.
halls and all that.
Yeah, well, I mean, even and studies do show that people who decorate early are statistically happier.
I'm never
people.
happy.
Anyway.
Shut up,
yeah,
Joe. Your
that's-
Zuko showing.
I think you're tired.
I think
I'm
a little bit.
hangry.
You're
I need
hangry.
food.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go then before my wife decides to take a bite out of me.
Need a
So
burrito.
have a plus ultra couple of weeks, guys, and have an extra plus ultra Thanksgiving for those of us in America. Thanks, guys, so much for listening in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Right.